weekend? You are excellent. You are being recorded, so no bad swears. I am. I finished grading everything, and there's a couple of more things that are coming in, and everything that I've seen has been really nice. I mean, it is really rewarding when people do a great job in their PowerPoint, when they do a good job sharing their service learning stuff, when they do their projects. I really appreciate the effort and work that you guys have put into this class. That is really very satisfying for me to see. So thank you very much. There are a couple things that I have on a list to talk about before we get into stuff, and this is for everybody here and who is going to be watching this later. I I hope you remember I told you guys a story a while back about a gentleman who was in the class whose parents were both really sick with COVID. So this was, back in 2020, I believe. And he, at the start of the term, was really gung ho. Things were going great. Then, for about 6 to 8 weeks, while we were shifting to online classes, he was there. I was getting nothing from him. I was not saying anything. And I remember reaching out, and we were still going in with masks and gloves and all that, and seeing each other every once in a while. But that's when I found out that his parents were sick. He was taking care of them, and he hadn't been turning anything in. And his grade at that point was a D minus. So I asked him what was going on. He explained his situation to me, and it went back and forth a little bit. And then about a week and a half before the end of the term, I said, you really got to get your butt in gear if you want to pass the class. He said, oh, I thought it was too late. I just assumed I'd take the class again because I'm not doing very well. And so I asked him just to turn in the stuff that he had. Go down through the list of things and turn in everything that he had completed. And he started doing that. He started doing it more and more. And then by the time the term was actually done, he had brought his D minus up to an A minus. So the moral of the story is that there is a lot that can be done. This is an online class. You're taking an online class because, like me, you are probably not a normal person. You are taking an online class because, for whatever reason, the regular schedule is not going to fit. So with that in mind, as you go through, there are zeros for some assignments, and for the things that aren't perfect scores, I will give recommendations of what to do to improve. I would like everybody to go through and, there's absolutely no reason for everybody not to get an A. And I will tell you a few things to do that will help to get your grade higher. One is go through and look at all the things that you've done that have not been turned in. Or the file that was turned in from your phone, so it wasn't a file that my computer can read. That is particularly HEIC files, my computer will not open. And there's a couple other formats like that too. And if it doesn't open up, I put a 0 on the thing so it shocks you. And then you go and read the comment. The comment usually says, please, my computer will not read this. Turn it in, resubmit it as a PDF or a JPEG. And whenever I've done that, the average turnaround time for people to resubmit with files my computer can read is about 2 to 3 hours. So, I know that you guys see that, and a lot of you have gone around and resubmitted with correct files. So that's one thing. Make sure that everything you've done is turned in. Also, go through and look at all the zeros and see what you've missed turning in. And sometimes it may be that it was just the one thing you forgot, or else you need to tweak it a little bit before you can turn it in. But whatever it is, doing those two things is turning in what's completed and then checking out the assignments that you've forgotten to finish. Both of those things are going to help quite a bit. A couple other things that are really helpful is if you don't have a perfect score on a quiz, go through and see which questions you're missing and either retake the quiz or resubmit those questions. A lot of the times, the questions are going to be that people miss. Remember, I told you at the beginning of the semester that there's always a ring or two in the quiz to make sure that you've read the text. A lot of the times, the questions that are missed because the person did not read the textbook. And remember, you can go to that ArtsNet website that I give. I think it's no, it's not ArtsNet. I can't remember what it is, but it is in the syllabus. Let me see if I can find that really fast. Go to that website. Find that. Well, it's also probably in the email too. Yeah, if you go to the module that's labeled Course Overview, in there is under Prep for the First Day of Class, you can see, go to the process of getting your textbook. And the place to go to sign up for a free account is archive.org. I am a solid 60% sure it's .org. I would recommend double checking that. If it doesn't give you the free website, then archive.org, then use archive.net or archive.com. But I'm pretty sure we talked about this before and ended up being archive.org. That will help you miss the questions where it's asking for a specific response. And you can also read the directions a little bit more carefully. Some of the most commonly missed questions are having to do with what's the color scheme. And there's a list of color schemes. Each of those items underneath only have one color scheme in them. And if you missed it first time around, just look at the list and use your deductive reasoning to figure out which one it is. You know, if you don't figure it out. There are also terms in there and things like that. And sometimes people, I also have had when a list question, one of the most common problems that people have is their brain is thinking faster than they can type. And so they don't type in the full answer. So those are easy things to fix, the quizzes. Another thing is making sure that all your work logs are turned in. And don't forget about the SRI. I sent out an email about that where I described where to find it. Abby in our class very carefully wrote down how to find it and sent that to me, and then I passed it on to you guys in one of the class emails for the SRI. And that's a simple way to get 2% more points. So those are all really, really super easy ways to do it. And again, that's turning in what you finished that you've forgotten to turn in, turning in things that are almost done, just finishing them up, retaking quizzes or redoing quizzes so you get the missed points. And then also, if you get fewer than perfect points, follow the directions that I give and resubmit. And that always helps increase points. And doing all those things are relatively easy. I did tell you that the drop dead deadline is midnight on Sunday. I think that if you need more time, let me know, because I do have a little bit of flexibility and I don't mind exercising flexibility. My priority is not to be a jerk. That comes naturally. My priority is to help you to be successful. So if you need more time, let me know, and I'll do as much as I can. I think that covers most of those things. And I've also, there has been times in the past as well when the photos that somebody sent in just did not give a good view of the sculpture. So they didn't get all the points, and they sent in, well, this is what it actually looks like. And then it was great. That's fine. I have also been really super impressed with the critiques that people have been turning in. I got several critiques this last week, and it looks like I've gotten more have been turned in, and we have a few more PowerPoint presentations too, and that's exciting to see. What is really neat is to see how well people are following the 4 tools of artistic critique, and how that really makes you feel professional as you're doing the critique. And it's really good to see that. An art history student told me earlier today that they have started using the 4 tools of artistic critique for pretty much everything. And it startled them because it really helped them to enjoy what they were seeing. Or if they couldn't enjoy what they were seeing, at least they were able to gain some measure of respect towards what they were seeing. Which, either way, I think that's a good thing. Now there are, I think the remaining things that people need to do are the final revisit of the sculpture. And again, a little is okay. Actually, it's not. It's kind of boring. More is more interesting, but a lot can become profound. So when you feel you're done, look at it, go over it again, add some more, sit back, you'll feel you're done again, and then address it again a third time, at least. Some of the most disappointing sculptures that I have seen in years past have been when somebody had a really good idea and they stop after just applying a little bit. For example, if you're going to go to the Dollar Tree and get a bunch of the silk flowers because you want to use petals as a texture, get several of the silk flowers and make the petal texture look like fur and cover the thing. Don't stop with 3 flowers. That's really sad, and I think whatever entity gave you the good idea in the beginning is really sorry that you didn't carry it all the way out. Carry it through. A couple of things that I wanted to share with you today is we have a service learning report from one person who did it as a video, which is completely acceptable for the service learning people. I've also gotten an essay that somebody wrote about the service learning experience, and that's good too. But if you are one of the service learning people, you can do a 3 to 5 minute video where you walk us through what you did, and that's perfectly fine. So I want to watch that. And this one is actually about 8 minutes, and that's really good. It's under the 10-minute mark. You remember what I said? If you submit anything that's 10 minutes longer, it's an automatic fail. Nobody needs to sit through 30 minutes of you talking about anything. Unless, of course, you're giving a talk in church, then go for as long as you can. But and then I'm thinking that we'll do the 2 PowerPoints maybe. And before we do those 3 things, I want to ask for questions from Paula and Diana, and then give you guys time to think, and then at the end I'll ask for some questions again. Now these are not necessarily questions that you two have. It's more, I would like you to think creatively and see if you can imagine what somebody else in the class might be asking. And if you can do that, that'd be awesome. Let's see.
So what is the final going to look like? I did read that it's going to be like some questions. Are those going to be posted like over the next week?
Well, what I'll do is on at midnight on Sunday, I'll post that. I'll open it up. It is an assignment in that final module. And what you'll do is there's 4 questions. You'll write answers that have to be a specific word count for each of them. And you can do that word count or more. You just won't get credit. You won't get full credit for anything under that word count. And I think that the 4 questions are like 12,000 words a piece or something. So really simple. Would that be evil? Though I think it's maybe 5 to 10 sentences for each of the 4 questions. So you guys should be able to do it without a problem. And then you have until Friday midnight to turn it in, the last day of finals. One thing that does concern me every once in a while is not with you guys, but with the Canvas system. I think UVU has been pretty good about leaving the Canvas open so you guys can submit things throughout finals. If that's not the case, then we'll have to do it via email. But as far as I've heard, it should be just fine to submit through. If anybody has any problems, let me know. If you're concerned about that at all, I would say the semester officially ends Friday, even though you guys can still turn in stuff through this coming Sunday night. And then, of course, finals is the next week. I would say if there's anything you're working on and you're concerned about, copy down the assignment before Friday at midnight, just in case. I don't think there'll be a problem. And then you can turn it in by Sunday night. If you need to turn things in and Canvas is shut down, we can always do it via email. And I don't have a problem with that either. All right, one question from Paula. Either a question that you have yourself or you think that somebody else in the class might have.
I'm not sure if I have any questions. I can't really think of anything.
What is something that you think somebody else in the class might have a question about? Well, I'd like Paula and Diana, think about whatever other questions there might be, and then when we're done, if you guys think of anything else, let's talk about it again. And again, not necessarily questions that you have, but questions you think might other students might have. So if that's okay, I am going to go ahead and, there's artist research. I think that I would like to first share with you a reflection that somebody had on their, oh wow, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. You're not seeing it. Okay. On their service learning project. So we're going to go ahead and watch that. Let's see if I can. Hold on just a second here. Okay, here we go. All right. All right, here we go.
I did 3 illustrations of 3 individuals who childhood identity no longer meets up with their current identity. By happenstance, they all happen to be trans or non-binary. And one of them ended up being disabled, which I was hoping to do more work with disabled individuals, because that's actually a community I know a lot about and personally am in, and know a lot of the times people just want something nice done for them. Unfortunately, none of them actually reached back out, even if I posted in groups or reached out to some people. They didn't want to reach back out, which is understandable, but very unfortunate because that's the group I was really hoping to work with. I think it did help really align me back with my focus in my psychology side, which is the LGBTQ plus and disabled communities. Particularly young adult and adolescent studies. I would definitely do this project again. I would give myself more time. because I am a very detail-oriented artist, I was doing little tiny drawings of Animal Crossing characters and frogs. For one person, I did this little tiny doctor of a picture of Invader Zim, and it was just a lot of different work, but I would have given myself a lot more time. And I think I would rather meet these people in person. I'm hoping to meet one of the people. I only knew one person. So I'm hoping to meet a second person in person eventually and get to show them this piece in person. But that may not be reasonable. Unfortunately, in here in Utah, it's not reasonable to necessarily ask a trans person to meet up with someone they don't know very well due to safety, even if they're not a minor. I think overall this project went very well, and I learned a lot from hearing these people's stories, and I heard a lot of people, when I was working with the people, they were happy to hear that I didn't just want to draw them as a trans person or as a cis person. I wanted to do stuff about who they really are and that I saw past it. And I thought that was really nice because that's kind of what I was getting at was, people that have these labels like trans or disabled, they get the label, they're stuck with the label, that's all people see. So I was glad I was able to help people reaffirm that they're not just a label.
I thought that was really cool. So Becca's project was, this reminds me about what Frederick Douglass said about photography. Frederick Douglass said that photography was a technological miracle because it afforded you the opportunity to share with the world how you see yourself. And what Becca was doing was connecting with people to create portraits of who they felt they were instead of how other people saw them. And she volunteered her time to do it, and a lot of her energy was put into developing connections with people who were willing to let Becca do the imagery. So I thought that was a really cool and thoughtful idea for a project. And let's see. We do have an 8-minute video on Slinkachoo. That is a little bit longer than what I'm normally comfortable with doing. So I think what we're going to do is I will share with you one of the more recent peer critiques and one of the more recent self-critiques, and then one PowerPoint, if that's all right with you guys. I'm sorry, I switched screens so I can, is that all right with you guys? Okay, great. It'll just take me a short half an hour here as I set it up. Again, I've been really impressed with the quality that everybody has been turning in. It's been really good to see. All right, here we go.
I'll be critiquing this piece done by Sarah Combs. This was a part of our sculpture-based photography unit that we had to create a tiny house, but then take photos of it to show different angles and focal points. All of her photos are super creative and make the sculpture of the house look almost like a normal sized sculpture. Like none of them really make it look like it is a tiny house. I really love all of the little details. You can see there's a screen door outside of what appears to be a wooden door, and the window even goes inside to show some flowers that are in there, a little vase and flowers. There's also a little vining plant that goes all the way up the walls of it. And then the roof itself looks like a nice sturdy roof. So overall, it's a really, really quaint little house. And yeah, I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a meaning behind this specific house that's super clear, other than it just looks like a really nice little house, but there's nothing really in your face about what the meaning could, be besides it just as a house. It does look like a very warm and inviting house, as opposed to something that would look a little more cool and a little less inviting and maybe scary for visitors. But this house looks like you could just walk right up to it and be welcomed in by whoever lives there. I also really like their choice of showcasing these, who are supposed to show the house in different lighting and everything. And Sarah did a good job of putting different filters on as well. But yeah, overall, I really like this piece, and I think that Sarah did a great job of doing it. I think she did a great job of building her tiny house and decorating it in a really great way, as well as photographing it in a really awesome way. All of her pictures were done in a super cool way that showed different sides of the house and different ways to view the house, so that it wasn't just one shot the whole time. But yeah, overall, take one last look at them. But overall, I think that this project was really, really good. And I think that she did an amazing job executing everything that was asked of us for this project. So yeah, this was a good one.
All right. I appreciated that as well. I thought that was Jayla did a really good job of talking through the thing. I think it would have been nice to hear a little bit more of the analysis, but I really enjoyed how she pointed out details, and that is really nice for me to see, because, or to hear rather, because it shows that you guys are really looking closely at what we're examining. So that's is Teams filtering out my dog's whining in the background? Can you hear that at all? We have a setter who gets bored very easily, and when she's bored, she wants everybody in the neighborhood to hear. And so it's, when you get a 4-year-old that is really sick and tired of watching TV, they don't want to do anything else, and they start whining. That's exactly what our dog does. It's very helpful. But hopefully you can't hear that. All right, so, and then I want to do a self-critique as well. All right, this self-critique is by Ellie, and one thing that I really like about it is it is one of the more unusual wrapped objects that we've seen in the class, and so it's kind of fun. It's exciting to kind of see somebody talk about that. So let's go ahead and do this.
Hi, my name is Ellie Bennett, and I'm critiquing my own work. This piece is a ball-shaped sculpture with a Barbie head on top. It appears that the piece has been wrapped many times with several different materials, such as ribbon, string, paper, fabric, beads, crocheted squares, stuffed animals, and green or mossy, fluffy material. This piece appears to be about the size of a small watermelon, and this piece has a lot of visual weight and appears to be very heavy. It appears that the Barbie and parts of the body have been scribbled on with several different colors. This piece looks both chaotic yet purposeful and crafted thoughtfully. To analyze this work, There are a few different ways that one could analyze it, but the first feeling that came to mind for me is the feeling of suffocation. The body can be perceived as the literal body of the Barbie, and as her head is very small, it could be inferred that her body is also very small, and the bulk of what we see is layers on top of her. The Barbie has no visible limbs, which would add to the idea of suffocation, since she's under so many different layers and layers of fabric. The repetitive use of fabric and ribbon also leads me to believe that this is the intention of the artist. One interesting thing I have noticed is that all of the ribbons have been tied into bows. This would lead me to believe that the Barbie is covered in layers purposefully, or is intending to present herself a certain way to the viewer or her peers. To interpret what I have analyzed already, I believe that the artist is trying to convey both of what I've explained above. The Barbie is representing women's emotions when they are being forced to appear a certain way to appease their peers. She is buried beneath layers and layers of fabric, which is suffocating and restrictive. It's very unlikely that she feels comfortable in what she is wearing, but despite this, she still appears happy and is clearly putting effort into what she was wearing due to the bows. It appears she has wrapped herself like a present. Instead of wearing what makes her feel most comfortable in her skin, her clothing is an expression of her value. She isn't wearing clothes for herself, but whoever will be, quote unquote, unwrapping the present later. Her own preferences have been cast aside to fit into a narrow and tight box for others to perceive her as she has desired. And to evaluate, I think this work has been done very well. The construction of the piece is chaotic, but it doesn't feel fragile. I wouldn't be worried about this work crumbling into a pile of objects if it were bumped into. The message I have interpreted may not be the artist's intentions. However, if so, I think they did a great job expressing this concept. It towed the line between concise but yet still open for interpretation. I believe the photography of this piece was also successful, as it allowed the chaotic nature of the piece to stand in contrast with the clean and white background. That's all for my critique. Thank you.
That was pretty impressive to me. I think Ellie's critique. A couple things that I liked about it is that she went through, just like we've talked before with previous critiques. She's listed the things that she was doing. You know, she said, okay, for the description, for the analysis, all that. I really like that. But I think the thing that impressed me the most is that Ellie was able to stay away from talking about the artist as if it was her. You know, she was able to remove herself from the equation. I think that's really good. What did you guys think about it?
I think the same thing. I feel like another like really good aspect of it is like how deep she went into it. So she really looked into like the meaning behind it and the symbolism behind Barbie in that case.
Yeah, that was she talking about almost a dissection of all the different materials that were being used, and you know, why are they tied up as bows? The implication of present, you know, or bows representing a present kind of thing. Yeah, that was really good. How about you, Paula? What did you take away from that critique?
Well, I thought the same that you guys just said, but also I feel like she used like some really good descriptive words.
Yeah, and I really like seeing that too, because uh, on that introduction to Four Tools of Artistic Critique, there's a lot of words that can be used to help describe things. And it's interesting to me that when a person takes the energy to use those kinds of words, it really helps us to appreciate what they feel that they're seeing. And yeah, I really like that. That's words are really important. And I being able to use the words that fit what you're describing with the greatest amount of precision not only helps other people to understand what you're seeing, but also helps to clarify what you're thinking about you're seeing as well. So yeah, I think those are really good observations. Excellent. Okay, now we are going to look at one PowerPoint that is done. I don't think we've seen this one at all. Sorry, I'm trying to. There we go. All right. Give me just a short 3 or 4 hours while I sync up everything. Okay, here we go.
Is Oldenburg. He was born in Sweden in 1922 and his family moved to the US in 1936. He studied art at Yale University and the Art Institute of Chicago. He grew tired of Chicago's art scene and moved to New York City in the mid-1950s. He found there that he did not love the expensive lifestyle of Fifth Avenue, but deeply admired the street culture of Manhattan's Lower East Side. This admiration would provide much inspiration for his future works. Oldenburg focused on everyday objects and the theme of consumerism. This connected him to the pop movement in New York with other artists like Andy Warhol. This first work or installation is called The Store. He created this and debuted it in 1961, and it's kind of what created a name for him in the pop art movement. He essentially turned an abandoned warehouse into an art gallery that was set up to look just like a typical American store. It displayed clothing and common household items like food that were all made of plaster. Through these everyday items, he was questioning society, consumerism, and our relationship with both. All of these objects were made using very cheap materials, kind of having this idea of cheap stores and cheap goods that Americans consume and take. And he was seeking to copy just an ordinary cheap American store. While all of these objects are very familiar, they bring a somewhat uneasy feeling because of sometimes their unnatural size, but often the texture and material they're made from. He had an interest in criticizing capitalist society and kind of just giving it this uneasy feeling and making you question it using the materials that he did. This was a successful installation that led to the Store 2 in 1962. And instead of using plaster this time, he chose a different material that was more malleable, a malleable fabric to create even more oversized food items. These were very large scale, more large scale than before, and sewn together so that they folded in on themselves and sagged, kind of furthering that uneasy feeling and criticizing consumerism and making you question what you're looking at and what you typically consume. We're now going to move on to his monuments. These were kind of a big deal. He, when he married his second wife, Kusi van Brugge in 1977, they collaborated on a lot of works. He did monuments before without her, but they, once they got married, they did a lot of works together. And like the installations he created, these monuments were made to depict everyday objects. But he then magnified them to enormous sizes that almost felt threatening, kind of furthering his point of consumerism and capitalism. He himself stated that the only rule of his work is that it shouldn't have any function, being a pure form. He was interested in looking at objects as they were, and by enlarging them to this enormous size, he was urging the viewer to look more closely at these objects that they have grown so used to and kind of just don't think about. Lipstick is kind of the beginning of him making sculptures out of metal on a large scale outdoors. This was one that was commissioned by graduate students at Yale University. And as you can see, it kind of just is part of his theme of consumerism. It's a product that is very enlarged, has interesting color, but not super unrealistic color, and just metal. It's very shiny and the scale is just very large, and it's having the viewer look at it and question what this is and how it relates to them. Clothespin is his first sculpture in an urban situation. It went through a number of changes before it was finally made. But at the end of the day, he says that this object was reduced to its absolute essentials, and that it is an idea of a clothespin rather than a clothespin itself. It is totally deprived of its function. The new function is to be an artistic object, the one that has now become. That was a big deal for him, was function and how function changes for these things that he's creating. Initially, right, a lipstick, the function is to wear and make you pretty or make you feel good. But when he makes it into a sculpture, the function turns to now becoming art. Spoon bridge is one of my favorites. I first learned about this one years ago, and it introduced me to his work. For a long time, he wanted to use a spoon and make it a monument and could never figure it out. His wife said the problem was he didn't have anything in the spoon. And so he put a cherry in the spoon and it just turned into what he wanted it to be. It wasn't meant, this whole sculpture wasn't meant to take too much attention because it was within a sculpture garden with other works. And so they made it fairly horizontal. This is also a fountain. The water comes out of the cherry stem and it kind of just trickles down onto the cherry, around the cherry, and then puddles in the spoon. Which is very interesting because it adds even more texture and interest to the cherry, making it look more realistic as to what a cherry actually looks like, more colorful and shiny, and gives it that texture that what a cherry looks like. Just some final thoughts on him. He really focuses on scale. Scale helps further his point of making the viewer look at these items and question what they are and how they relate to the artist in their, or to the viewer in their life. He uses color, typically realistic color, but it draws the viewer in. It's very interesting and creates balance and I think interest to the pieces. And texture, obviously, with the malleable pieces and the plaster food pieces in the beginning. Just kind of gives an uneasy feeling, that feeling he's looking for, to make the viewer question and wonder what's going on and why do I feel uneasy. As well as in his large monuments, it gives just an added, like with the cherry, and it looks shiny and it just looks more realistic. I think he does that really well. Thank you.
I think that's another one that turned out really good. I like it for a number of reasons. One is that Madison went through from earliest to most recent order of his sculptures, and then talked about, found a theme that was consistent with the work that she was showing, and then talked about how each one related to that theme. I thought that was really nicely done. Excuse me. And also addressing ideas, well, why he's established a precedent, why is he changing it, why is he doing different things? And she also managed to address how each of the sculptures was unique, or why each one was different. And I thought both of those things were really very interesting to hear. What did you guys think about it?
I think she did a really good job at transitioning from one point to the next. Both in that there weren't like any like really big gaps in between each topic, and then it also didn't really feel rushed. Like, I don't know, it just felt smooth.
Yeah, I completely agree. Excellent observation. How about you, Diana? What did you like about it?
I think what I liked most about it is that she didn't shy away from like the big topics that this artist was trying to convey. So she very much put an emphasis on like consumerism and like overconsumption and how it relates to this artist. I think that's something she did really well.
Yeah. Now, both of you guys are, Paula and Diana, are making really good observations. And I want to mention that from the difference between when we first started talking about these things to now, it's kind of cool for me to see how you folks articulate your thoughts and observations. And you really very quickly get at the meat of the matter. It's very easy to say, oh, that's neat, or that was nice, but you're very precise in what you're talking about. And so I'm critiquing your critiquing of the critique. It's exciting for me to witness that, because that is a principle which will only help you as you move forward as an artist. So excellent work. Critiqueception, yeah. Well, those are the things that I really wanted to talk about this time. We are winding things up. I urge everybody to finish the things that they are working on and turn everything in as quickly as you can. Again, look at if you're not getting all the points, look at the things that need to be changed, and if you can, change them and resubmit. I would also urge you that if there is something that you've already submitted and I have not graded it by now, email me and let me know, because I am on top of things. I think right now there are more assignments that people submitted just today that I need to grade. So let me know if you have made a comment or resubmitted anything. Let me know so I can make sure and take care of it. I want to make sure that you guys get all the points that you've worked for, and everybody gets the best grade that they can possibly get. So can either of you guys think of any questions that other people might have? And if you don't, that's fine too. But do either of you guys think that other people might have other questions?
I thought of one.
Okay.
As far as turning things in late, I guess like, is it better at some point to turn anything in at all, even if it isn't totally finished, than to not turn anything in?
I think that's a really valuable question. And the answer is turn in as much as you possibly can. It is better to turn in something and get partial points than turn in nothing and guarantee a 0. But also, if you let me know what's going on, if you tell me I had these things happen, I just need a couple couple more days or whatever, I'm happy to work with that as well. And if you turn something in and let me know, hey, I just turned this in, can you grade it right away so I can see what I'm missing? I will turn around and respond just as fast as I possibly can. And again, the semester is over Friday at midnight. You guys can turn things in until Sunday at midnight. And if you need more time, let me know, because I'm happy to work with you. Just let me know what's going on. So yeah, Paula, that is an excellent question. Thank you very much. All right, folks. Well, that is all I have. So it is a very abbreviated lesson for tonight, but it's pretty much, if neither of you guys were here, we would have been done like a half an hour ago. So thank you very much for participating. And you kept me awake. I would have fallen asleep. That's a funny once kind of thing, but it would be still kind of funny. My brother was giving a lecture. He was an invited alumni at BYU. He was giving a lecture, and he asked for questions. So of course I raised my hand. I don't know. I had no idea what he was talking about because his field is statistics. And my question was, have you ever fallen asleep during your own lecture? And apparently questions like that don't go over really well when most of the audience doesn't know you. So thank you very much for being with me tonight. And if anybody does have any questions, thank you, Paula. If anybody does have any questions, email me and I will do my best to answer them. We are not going to be meeting next Tuesday. I will be sending out the questions for the final on Sunday night, and or Sunday at midnight, so I guess Monday morning. And you will have until Friday, next Friday. And what is that, May 3rd, Friday, May 3rd, to answer those and turn them back in. If you don't respond at all to the final, this is just like a live final. If you don't respond to the final at all, it's like missing your final. And the department has said that you can lose up to a full letter grade. So please do not forget about doing it. If Canvas is shut down for any reason, if you can't access it, I will email the questions to everybody and then you can email me them. But I'm pretty sure that Canvas will be open. If there's any issues, just email me directly on my UVU email and I will respond as rapidly as I can. All right. Thank you very much, folks. I hope you guys have an awesome week and weekend. And finals is stressful enough. If anybody's having serious issues about stress, talk to the accommodations office. They can help you. They can interface between you and your professors. They can point you to the resources you need to help you out. I do not want this to be a source of migraines or additional stressors. I'm happy with what everybody's doing. Keep it up. And I look forward to seeing you around in the hallways. All right. We'll see you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for making this a cool semester. See ya.
All right. We'll see you. Thank you.